Black Power family, welcome to another Sarnetta TV House of Consciousness production. I have a special message. There are Hebrew Israelites in Africa. And I'm not just talking about the brothers that come from America that go over there. I'm talking about Africans who are Hebrew Israelites. So you hear the Hebrews always saying that the Africans are not their people. They are so and so. Well, check this out, family. Check it out.
You should. You are African. You not my people. I don't give a damn what language you speak. And you still a stinking African. You still a stinking African.
Where you from, sister? Where your forefathers from? Africa? What part of Africa you from? West Africa? Which country?
Ghana.
Ghana? Okay, so you from Ghana. Now listen. What we teaching today is the Israelites are the so-called blacks, the so-called Hispanics who went into the slave trade, all right? So your people, obviously, you didn't go into the slave trade, y'all stayed back. You didn't go into the slave trade, y'all stayed back. Obviously, you didn't go into the slave trade, y'all stayed back.
See, let me tell you something. We think slavery in America was something. Slavery in Africa is still in force. But they know less about their history than you and I do.
While much has been written concerning the transatlantic slave trade, surprisingly little attention has been paid to the Islamic slave trade across the Sahara, the Red Sea, and the Indian Ocean. While the European involvement in the African transatlantic slave trade to the Americas lasted for just over 3 centuries, the Arab involvement in the African slave trade has lasted 14 centuries, and in some parts of the Mohammedan world is still continuing to this day.
Slave trading is a thriving business. Northern militias are raiding villages in the south for slaves, which they then take back to the north. They keep them in their households or sell them to other masters.
The Islamic slave trade took place across the Sahara Desert, from the coast of the Red Sea, and from East Africa across the Indian Ocean. The Trans-Sahara trade was conducted along 6 major slave routes. Just in the 19th century, for which we have more accurate records, 1.2 million slaves were brought across the Sahara into the Middle East, as well as a further 450,000 down the Red Sea and 442,000 from the East African coastal ports. That is a total of 2 million black slaves just in the 1800s. At least 8 million more were calculated to have died before reaching the Muslim slave markets. Only 5% of the slaves ended up in what we call the United States today. However, a minimum of 28 million Africans were enslaved in the Muslim Middle East, and in some parts of the Mohammedan world is still continuing to this day.
And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people, from the one end of the earth even unto the other, from the one end of the earth even unto the other, from the one end of the earth even unto the other.
These are the Sidi people, the descendants of black Africans who live in communities close to the coast in this area and across India.
The Sidis, whose features are remarkably African, live across India, where we came face to face with abject poverty. Impoverished and outcasted, they have remained racially intact.
The Sidis are descended from Africans who came to India. The Muslim princes brought us here from Africa. We have been in Gujarat for 600 years. They were brought here as slaves. They were brought here to work.
The Sidis' arrival can be traced back to the 10th century, when many came aboard the dhows of Arab merchants who traded with kingdoms along India's west coast. The Arabs are believed to have captured the Sidis after raids on coastal Bantu villages in East Africa. The men mostly work as farm helps for the Indians and ironically are regarded as encroachers.
The city, in terms of social structure, they are at the bottom of the pile. And for that reason, they would have lots of problems.
The Sidis have been branded as incapable of intellectual endeavors, only talented in music and sports.
Peace and blessings. Kohen Netanya Halevi, Rabbi, living in Ghana, West Africa for the past 21 years, originally from New York.
Being in Africa for 21 years, have you ever came across any Hebrew Israelites that's there? Because when we out here on the street, the Hebrews say, we not African, we hate these damn Africans.
Most Africans are not our people, you understand? But the west coast of Africa, all right, down all the way to South Africa, that's where they were getting us. Right? Our people, the so-called black Americans, black West Indians, we're not of the African people. They got us from Africa, but we're not African, if you're gonna understand what I'm saying. All right?
Now, after the Romans destroyed the last temple of the people of the Hebrew faith, 70 AD, now you got to watch it. I see no migration pattern that took them into Europe. I do see a migration pattern that took a large number of them into inner West Africa, where a large number of people of the Hebrew faith lived in ancient Ghana, lived in peace.
Being in Africa for 21 years, have you ever came across any Hebrew Israelites that's there?
Of course, I've come across many Hebrew communities in West Africa. In fact, many of the ethnic groups that make up what we know today as Ghanaian, Nigerian, and many of the member states of ECOWAS have indigenous Hebrew Israelite origins. If you to study the original journey of the people there, their own narrative of their own migration patterns, you find the Akan, which is made up of the Ashanti, the Bantu, the Akwapem, the Achem. Many of them trace themselves back to the ancient Hebrew Israelites in Palestine. Those who do not trace their origin back to the Nile Valley Basin, which is where the great migration took place from.
You can see how they came from the north towards the west and the east of Africa. So at some point in time, this whole area was called So-Yuda. So So-Yuda has now become known as Sudan today. So is the name of the land. Yuda is Judah. These two words today are known as Sudan, the name of the country.
Did you know that Sudan is an ancient name for the Yahudians, the black Yahudians, Judah, the tribe of Judah? And did you know that the tribe of Judah exists in Ethiopia? Of course they do.
These are the builders of ancient kingdoms and civilization that goes all the way back to the Nile Valley Basin. These are the ancient people of the ancient Mali, Songhai, Ghana empires when they came from the western Sudanic areas.
Negro. Look at what it says here. A member of the dominant group of mankind in Africa, characterized generally by a dark skin. So it's telling you that the Negroes are different from all other African races. Ham, the youngest son of Noah, born probably about 96 years before the flood, he became the progenitor of the dark races. Semicolon. Not the Negroes. See that? I highlighted it. Not the Negroes. So Negroes is not part of Ham. It's going to tell you now who's part of Ham. But the Egyptians, the Ethiopians, the Libyans, and the Canaanites. Genesis chapter 10 and 6, the table of nations. And we're not Canaan either, so you can't say the Negroes are Canaan.
If your people have lived in certain parts of Africa, like for instance Ghana, Ethiopia, Nigeria, then it is 99.9% likeliness that you're a Hebrew. You're a chosen person of the Most High God.
So if you're not nobody on this sign, if your forefathers not from Puerto Rico, he ain't from Dominican Republic, he ain't from Cuba, or the West Indies, so on and so forth, what you see on this sign, don't worry about it. But if you are, this is for you.
So again, as I say, there are a few people in the Hebrew community, not many, but there are a sect of those who basically have been misinformed and continue to misinform and perpetuate that misinformation that Africans have nothing to do with the ancient children of Abraham and the people of the Bible. And that's a misnomer. As I say, it's false information. Unfortunately, those of us in the West have been subject to miseducation through two major institutions. The Western religious institutions and the Western academic educational institutions. Both of them have done a successful job in miseducating us to who the African really is, and therefore perpetuating a self-hate syndrome in the African.
You are African, you not my people. I don't give a damn what language you speak, and you still a stinking African. And you still a stinking African. You still a stinking African.
So we try to escape our identity with Mother Africa through any means necessary. We call ourselves everything but African, Asiatic, we call ourselves Native American. And unfortunately, we have not been able to escalate the program of lifting that consciousness fast enough, to be able to eradicate that ignorance from the mouths of our people, and most of all from the minds and heart of our people.
Beautiful.